Thank you all for being here today. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. I see some people are still popping on, so we'll give just a little bit more time, and then we'll be ready to get started. As we move into our space together and you get set up for success, I'm going to drop a resilience note catcher for our workshop today into the chat window. You are welcome to engage with us in a few different ways today. If you happened to print the workbook or the note catcher in advance, you're welcome to work on paper. If you'd like to use the digital version to create digitally, you can use the link in the chat. Or if you have your own space where you are writing and creating today, such as a journal, you're welcome to use that as well. Any of those options will work successfully. We're happy to have you. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that we can all see what we're learning about. And we'll go ahead and dive in. All right. Welcome everyone to our workshop on resilience today and thinking about how we can take care of ourselves, but also as educators, as we know that it's important to care for ourselves in order that we can best care for our students. I will be your facilitator today. My name is Jackie Miller, and I have been a part of the coaching network as a coach in Region 3, the Treasure Valley area, for the past 6 years. Prior to that, I was a teacher leader in the network, and I taught 4th and 5th grades at Ronald Reagan in Nampa. I'm excited to be here with you today. And as we get started, just a few friendly reminders. I see everyone doing an amazing job with this already. If you can have your microphone on mute when you're not speaking, that will just help us with having a clear recording. And just with background noise. It's great if we can see your faces. That helps us to build our community. We also want to let you know we're recording this session for glean from this learning as well. We love seeing your names on your screen. If you want to change your name, you can use the 3 dots on the top of your picture and you can rename yourself. You'll want to have that place to create today. So either that digital note catcher I dropped in the chat, which I'll drop it one more time into the chat in case you just joined us. Or again, you're welcome to use a printed version or your own notebook. And then most importantly, I just invite you to come with an open heart and mind and a desire and willingness to engage in our learning together. And as we get started, I want to invite you into our community by inviting you to think about the community agreements that we have for our conference today. So we have 4 community agreements, which you may have read in your participants guide. The first one is to be fully present. So be prepared, actively engage, try to eliminate distractions as much as possible, and then take care of the needs that you have as they come up throughout the session. The second is to engage in dialogue, to listen to each other and seek to understand, committed listening and powerful questioning. The third is participation, including both yourself and others. And then lastly, we have mindset, believing deeply in the potential of yourself and others. So I'm going to invite you to think about those 4 community agreements and what's speaking to you today. And then I'll invite you to write that in a space where it's easy for you to remember, just so that it can be fully present for you as you think about how you want to show up in this space. And then once you've had a chance to jot down that community agreement, your norm intention for our session, I'm going to launch the poll, and I'll invite you to share with the group which intention you set for today. And this will just give us a chance to see where we're collectively at. And I'll give you about 10 more seconds. Oh, it looks like everyone's voted. Awesome. I'm going to end the polling and share the results with you. We can see we have a good mix today, but it looks like most of us are really concentrating on being fully present in this moment, which is a fantastic thing because that helps us to get the most out of our learning today. So now I want to share with you our essential question for our work together during this session. We're going to be thinking about how do we build resilience in ourselves and in our students. And I'm going to invite you to begin with just a little written reflection. So either on your own paper or in the notebook. This is on workbook page 2. So if you're in your workbook, you can see this concentric circles note catcher. And thinking about that essential question, you're going to start in this first box that says, I think. And go ahead and just take maybe a minute or two to respond and capture your initial thoughts on this essential question. And go ahead and begin to bring your thinking to a pausing point, looking for the end of that sentence. And knowing that we'll come back to this essential question a couple of times throughout our session today for you to continue to expand on your thinking around this essential question. And now I'd like to share with you our learning goals for today's session. The first one is that we as educators are going to consider what the research says about resilience and why it's so critical. Then we will participate in several resilience building strategies, and we'll consider how we can help our students to build their own resilience too. So we're going to begin by just grounding ourselves in the present moment, which is perfect based on the poll we just did and how many of you set that as an intention for today. So in her book, Onward, Cultivating Resilience in Educators, Elena Aguilar says this: learning to be in the present moment without judging it boosts our resilience. It can allow us to feel accepting and clear-headed about our options for response. When we're fully present, we're more likely to find appropriate levity to moments of challenge and to relieve stress by finding humor in a situation. So we're going to begin our time together today with a chance to celebrate. And we're going to do that through the creation of a joy collage. I'm going to invite you to create a collage of images that represent joy to you. So thinking about what brings you joy, what images come to mind. Don't overthink it. Just think about the images that really just first come to mind and stand out to you. And go ahead and let that be playful and fun. So I'm going to show you an example of the joy collage that I created. So you can see kind of what that looks like for me. You're also welcome to pull in pictures of your family, your pets, things like that, that bring you joy as well if you would like. And if you're choosing to do this in a digital space, we're going to be using page 3 of the interactive notebook. If you are choosing to do this on your own paper, you're welcome to just draw images that bring you joy. Again, if you're using the digital space, just a hint, you can click on Insert and Image, and then you can say Search the Web, and it will pull up a menu here on the right side of your screen. And you can type what you're looking for. So if I'm thinking sunshine brings me joy, I can click on that and it will pull up a variety of images for sunshine. And then you can just drop them right into your joy collage. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes. We'll take probably 6 or so here for you to create your own joy collage. And let's go ahead and take about 1 more minute for creating, knowing that if you don't finish, hopefully you're feeling inspired and will choose to come back to this and extend upon it later. And this is your 30-second countdown if you're finishing up drawing or dropping in one last picture. Awesome. Go ahead and bring that to a pausing point. And we're going to take a couple of minutes here for a chance for us to share out what brings us joy. It can bring us joy to think about what brings us joy and to capture pictures, but also to share with others. So we're going to move into some breakout rooms, and I'm going to invite you to share in one of three ways. One option is that you can use the screen share button to actually share your screen if you created digitally and show your partner what you created. Option two is to just hold up your work in front of you. So for example, I have this joy collage here, and I could talk to you about what I was thinking as I created it. Or option three, describe one image you chose and why. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes in our breakout rooms, and then we'll be back here together. So you should be with one other person and a chance to share out. Enjoy. Bree, you get to stay with me.
I was going to say, I think I came in late, so maybe I didn't have an assignment.
No, I put you with me because I wanted to talk to you and say hi.
Oh, hi. You look beautiful, by the way.
Thank you, friend. I'm so glad I get to see you today and get to see you in this workshop. Share your joy collage with me. I want to see what you.
I left your one nature picture on there because I didn't have time to take it off. Does that look like someone you know?
It's Leroy.
Although this technically is not Leroy, I didn't have time to drop an image from my phone, but nature, and you know me, the kind of laughing that makes you cry, flowers, very, very much into flowers right now, and you know, with everything going on with the wedding. And then I loved your picture too, so I left that in there.
Yay, I love it.
I love this. I love the digital notebook. I was just with Kathleen Olson, and you know, using Google for this kind of stuff, like being able to move around Post-its and you know, all that kind of stuff. Like it's I think the best way to make it interactive, right? And I love having this digital notebook thing, and especially like if you're dropping it in the chat and stuff, such a good way for us to have something going on and creating it. So then we have it and it's just on our computers and we can go back and access it. So that was really smart on your guys' part.
Thank you. Thanks for all that great feedback. Yes, we have been loving the digital notebook this year and learning so much about how to enhance it and make it even more interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been such a year of innovation for all of us, right?
Is this some of the stuff that you were talking about on our walk that you've learned how to do? Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to share with you my screen, and I'll just share with you a little bit about maybe the images, some of the images that I put as well. This was meant to represent kind of a lot of people's ideas of what bring them joy, just because we wanted an example that resonated with lots of things, like actually swinging does bring me joy, but like being outside and how much joy that brings me. Going to the beach, although if I have to pick beach or mountains, I'm going to pick mountains for sure.
Yeah, I figured you would.
So you see the mountains as well, flowers. So the one up top where the man is like jumping with his scroll thing, it just makes me think about success and accomplishing great things. And yeah, those are.
What about the little, is that a little, hold on, let me move your Zoom. Yeah, the little kid with the balloons floating through the air.
Yeah. That just kind of makes me think about like the joy that you can have outside or seeing kind of the world through children's eyes.
Yeah, that one's
awesome.
good.
Okay, looks like everyone is back with us. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your partner share out. As we move forward, we want to take some time to ground ourselves in the research around self-care and resilience. When we think about resiliency, this goes beyond bubble baths and going for a walk, although both of those can contribute to our resilience. So we pulled some research from Elena Aguilar in her book Onward on Cultivating Emotional Resilience. And she defines resilience as a way of being that allows us to bounce back quickly from adversity and stronger than before, so we can fulfill our purpose in life. And the reason that cultivating our resilience is so important is because toxic stress first manifests as decreased productivity, but then it escalates to more serious symptoms such as anxiety, dissociation, frustration, and eventually burnout. So the great thing about emotionally cultivated through engaging in specific habits and by fostering specific dispositions. So we're going to spend some time doing that today. But before we do so, I'm going to invite you into some breakout rooms where you will have a chance with your group to consider the Resilience Manifesto and what resilience truly looks like. So I'm going to invite you on your note catcher. If you're using the digital version or the analog version, this is on page 4. You'll see the Resilience Manifesto here at the top. And what we're going to do is in our groups, I'm going to invite you to read that Resilience Manifesto aloud. And then I'm going to invite you to consider it in 3 different ways. So the first one is challenge. So as you consider the Resilience Manifesto, think about what is challenging your thinking. Then the second one is changed. So as you look at this, you're going to think about what is changing in your thinking. And then the third one is confirmed. So what is confirming something that you maybe already knew or thought before? So those are your prompts to think about, but it will be helpful if you read the Resilience Manifesto aloud, particularly for those who may not have this in the digital or physical copy. So we're going to move into our breakout rooms. Once again, read the Resilience Manifesto, and then you'll notice down at the bottom, you have challenged, changed, and confirmed your thinking. So you can either write in that space or type what challenged your thinking there. So enjoy your conversations in your breakout rooms. We're going to take about 7 minutes here. Hi, friends. Some of you get to stay with me in the main room. Yay. Would anyone like to read the Resilience Manifesto to the group?
I can do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Yvonne.
All right. So just read all of it. Okay. A manifesto is a public declaration of principles and intentions. May these principles guide our individual and collective commitment to resilience. Number 1, a wellspring of resilience is inside us. We are stronger than we think. Number 2, we are born with individual and collective resilience. Our quest is to find our way to these internal springs and nurture them. Number 3, we cultivate resilience so that we can thrive, not simply to prevent burnout or survive. Number 4, resilience is cultivated through daily habits and thoughts that strengthen dispositions. Number 5, it is a human right to explore and express emotions. Number 6, to help children build their emotional intelligence and resilience, we must simultaneously tend to our own emotional intelligence and resilience. Number 7, powerful and effective educators talk about emotions at work. Number 8, how we interpret events and tell our story matters most. In our interpretations, we exercise the freedom to choose our attitude. Number 9, we are all connected and responsible for each other. Caring for others is caring for the self. And number 10, we cultivate our resilience and become stronger so that we can help others become stronger. We cultivate our resilience so that we have energy to heal and transform the world.
Awesome. And let's go ahead and maybe take just a couple of silent minutes to think about what challenged, changed, or confirmed our thinking, and then we can chat some more. Let us know when you feel ready to maybe move into discussion. And just a heads up, we have about 2 minutes before the group will come back to the whole. So we can maybe share like our one major insight, either challenge, change, or confirmed.
Are we ready to talk? One thing that I thought really confirmed things for me is that we are all responsible for each other and the resilience. So like my students are also responsible to help me continue to be resilient, just like I am responsible to help them continue to be resilient. We kind of have to work together as a team to make that work out for us.
One thing that I thought was interesting that is challenging my thinking is I definitely believe in expressing emotions, but I thought it was interesting that it was framed as it is a human right to explore and express emotions. And I kind of liked that thinking about it. And I want to think more about that. Tiffany or Yvonne, do you want to share?
I just think the challenge constantly is building like number 6. I mean, just to help our students and our own kids build this while we're trying to take care of ourselves too. And I find that's always a challenge, but especially this year, that's been difficult to do that. So that's just a huge, yeah, I still need to work on that one.
You are not alone.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking like each one of these could have its own challenges in a way. Like, so I've just been kind of thinking about each one of these separately and kind of how to approach each of them as well, because they can kind of be in depth.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thanks, group, and welcome back, others. I see you joining us again. That is fantastic. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation. I know it was quick, but hopefully you had a chance to dig in a little bit to the Resilience Manifesto and to think about what is challenging, changing, and confirming your thinking. And now I'd like to invite you back to page 2 of your interactive notebook or your workbook to think about how your understanding around this essential question and resilience is building. So in that second box, I'm going to invite you now to write about what you're thinking in this moment based on what you just learned about resilience. We'll take just a minute here. And go ahead and begin to wrap up your thought. Thanks for thinking about how your understandings are evolving, and we are going to come back to this again a little bit later on. But in this moment, I want to invite us to move into some practical strategies we can use to build our resilience and create that wellspring or reservoir that Elena talks about. So we're going to begin by thinking about the habit of taking care of yourself. And so this is around physical self-care. Physical self-care and well-being are foundational for many other habits. When your body is cared for, you're better able to deal with emotions. Resilient people have a healthy self-perception, are committed to taking care of themselves, and accept themselves more or less. And we're going to take some time to plan for our own self-care by doing some brainstorming. So we will be using the interactive notebook and we'll be using page 5. So that's where you'll want to navigate to as we think about physical self-care to start with. So what I'd like you to do is brainstorm some specific examples of how you can plan for self-care. And we're going to do that through thinking about some stuff. I might jot down on one of those bullets, get at least 7 or 8 hours a night, or I will turn off my electronics an hour before bedtime. So those are just a couple of examples, but you want to get specific with it. And we'll take just 20 or 30 seconds to consider this first category of sleep and what you can do to plan for your own self-care. The next category I want you to think about is moving your body. What are some things you already do or that you'd like to start doing? Maybe recommit to doing. The next category is eating healthfully to fuel your body. Now I invite you to think about organizing your space. Some specific things you can do in that area. The next category is trying something new. Now think about reflection and gratitude. The next category is doing what you love. Now consider connecting with others. Consider art and creativity. All right, I'm going to invite you to wrap that up. Just put a pin in those ideas. And now we're going to extend that thinking forward by setting some specific goals that you can set today and enact immediately. So we would like you to identify 3 goals for this coming week or the next few weeks that you would like to put into practice based on the brainstorming that you've just done. And then you're going to list an action step for each of these goals. And you can even add some items to your calendar if that's helpful to you. But once again, in terms of your note catcher, we're down here at the bottom, thinking about what you brainstormed, select 3 of those ideas and set a specific goal as well as at least 1 action step you can take in that area. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes here for some goal setting, because we know that when we write things down, we are more likely to live into those goals. Take about another 20 seconds here. So whichever goal you're working on right now, try to finish that one up. Awesome. Thanks for doing that intentional thinking and goal setting for yourself. And now I'm going to invite us into another opportunity for us to share out. Here's a couple of prompts you might consider in your sharing. What goals and action steps did you set for yourself? If you would prefer not to share something so personal, you can think about how this experience felt for you or how you might use this strategy in the future. We're going to take just about 4 minutes in our breakout rooms, and then we will be back together as a whole group. All right, enjoy your conversation, and we'll see you soon. Hello again, friends. What would you ladies like to talk about? Would anyone like to share a specific goal or action step, or would we prefer to talk about like the strategy in general and how we might use it?
I could share one of my goals.
Go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
No, go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think one of my goals is to get more sleep. I tend to try to and partially not check emails at night, because then I tend to stay up later, and then I get my mind thinking about what's going on my email or at school or whatever. And so partially with the sleep is not checking email at night, and then trying to get to bed earlier, because I tend to not. And then I wake up already tired for the next day. So I think that's one of my goals for sure.
One of my goals.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Oh, I was just gonna say, one of my goals is to wake up on the first alarm in the morning. I'll set 6 alarms, and then I'll make it to 5 or 6 before I actually get up. But I really should be getting up on the first one. There's a reason I set the first one.
Yeah, one of the goals, for whatever reason, I don't have trouble going to sleep and I don't have trouble getting up. I used to, but that part's really good. My problem, at least lately, is leaving the house so that I have more time at school in the morning. And that's a really big goal for me. Because I really enjoy, like, I wake up early, I drink my coffee, I watch the news, and it's this great morning. And then I just keep pushing that later. So then I don't really have a lot of time at school. And that's what I want to try to do, because I could do some, I mean, things are ready at school. It's not even preparing for my day. It's more having that time for me just at school, kind of either journaling or, getting one more cup of coffee, whatever I need to do would just really help me have that space. I mean, especially now where we have to like wear masks all day, it would be like a moment in my classroom by myself without having to wear a mask. Just those kinds of things would really help me. So I'm going to work on that. Yeah.
It sounds like each of you are really seeking balance in your life and trying to figure out like what's the best way to make that happen. I could definitely relate on all of the things that all of you were saying. One of the things that I was thinking about is how much I love to create things, particularly art, even though I may not be like I'm not a Michelangelo, but I do really love creating art. And so I want to create more space in my week to do that and not feel guilty when I do it, that it's just like, I could be doing something more productive. All right, we're going to all come back here in just a couple of seconds, just to give you a heads up.
Yeah. And Jackie is quite an artist. I've seen some of your art, Jackie. You're quite artistic.
Thank you, Yvonne. And welcome back, everyone, from your breakout rooms. I hope you enjoyed that discussion and just connecting with one another. Now we're going to move on to another habit of thinking about how we can build community. Building community and having a resilient community around us is one of the greatest ways that we can create a reservoir of resilience. So Elena says in Onward, we are social beings and we need each other to thrive. A strong, healthy community can bolster us through challenging moments and bring joy to our lives. When we build community, we can build empathy for each other, and building empathy for each other helps us to build community. So for our activity, our resilience activity for building community, we're going to use an activity called a corsage of community. And the way that we're going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and show you in the notebook, is on page 6. So if you happen to print this, you should have a flower in front of you. Otherwise, you can draw your own flower, or you can use this digital space. And you'll begin by putting a picture of yourself in the middle. That can be your own masterpiece, or it can be dropping in an actual picture, or maybe even a Bitmoji of yourself. And then you'll notice in each of these outer rings, you have a space to put a name. So what we'd like to invite you to think about are the people in your world who create community for you. So inside each petal, you're going to write the name of someone in your personal or professional community who supports you. And you're just going to add as many petals as you would like. So for example, I'm going to start with my mom, because my mom's here with us today. And she just wanted to get to see what I do. So I love that my mom supports me, and I'm going to add some other people in my personal and professional community as well. So we'll give you just a couple of minutes to add some names and think about who is a part of your community. And now that you've had a chance to jot down some names of people in your personal and professional community, I'm going to invite us to extend our thinking by adding or drawing a few additional petals and considering who we might like to add to our support network. So this could be a specific person. If you know somebody out there and you're like, I know that person, I'm not very close to them yet, but I'd like to pull them into my community. It could be a type of person. So perhaps you're looking for a person who can make you laugh in a challenging time. Or it could be a specific quality that you would like in a person, such as kindness. So you can consider people or types of people for both your personal and your professional community. Oftentimes here, I'm stretching for people who are in my professional community, but just a little outside of my reach. So for example, I love Brene Brown. And although I don't know her personally, her work has greatly influenced me. So you can see that you also have some petals if you're using the digital version out on the side, and you can click on them and you can drag and drop them onto your flower if you would like to make your flower bigger and you need more space for all those names of awesome people in your community. So we'll take just a couple minutes here for you to add to your corsage of community. I bet your corsages are mushrooming as you're thinking about all the people who support you. And hopefully that's bringing you a sense of joy and resilience as well. We are going to move into a time of sharing again in those same breakout rooms. I should have mentioned to make sure you introduce yourself if you didn't get a chance to previously. But this time in your breakout rooms, I'm going to invite you to either share some specific people from your corsage, or you can consider one of these questions. What are you recognizing about your community in doing this activity? How did this experience feel for you? Or how might you use this experience for yourself, your colleagues, or your students in the future? So we'll take about 4 minutes in our breakout rooms for some conversation around these questions. See you back here soon. Thanks for hanging out with me in the main room, ladies.
Problem.
Definitely.
How'd that activity feel for you and what kind of resonated with you?
I thought it was really good. It helped me realize that I kind of have like my personal life and my family, but then a lot of those people like in the outer petals are people that I currently work with that support me and kind of have the same goals also. So we have that in common where we can be supportive of each other's growth. And then for extending out, it was kind of just about my growth, looking to eventually be a librarian and probably having to go to like a different school to do that, and reaching out to being able to build that community even more around me for that support.
Awesome, Tanya. I really appreciate how you thought about the next steps in your professional journey and then how to build community around that to help you feel successful.
Thank you.
it was cool for me to just kind of see, or I guess reflect about how many people like are kind of in your corner when sometimes you feel like you're by yourself
Mhm.
or that you're alone. You can kind of look and be like, I just thought of all these people in 2 minutes or whatever that were supportive and that have my back. So it's kind of a little refreshing.
Mhm. Absolutely. How about you, Yvonne?
Yeah, I felt like I didn't, like I could just keep adding to this. And that's what's kind of cool, like just to feel like, oh, there's so many people that can support us. And I think it is. It's sometimes you feel like you don't, and you start building this. I think this would be a great thing to do with students.
Mhm.
I've done something similar, but I like this graphic and this way of doing it, of, just helping students think of, who can support you. At times when I've kind of done that with kids, like in our study period time that we have at our school, of
Mhm.
thinking of who can help you academically, but also other kids or other people that are in your support group. I think is important to write it down and see it, be able to see that. Yeah, it's cool.
Such an important reminder too. As Tiffany was talking, I was just thinking about, how immense and beautiful each community, all of us have a community that is immense and beautiful. But until we, take time to think about it and think about who we could reach out to, we often don't recognize the strength and community that we have. And I think that's particularly potentially true of our students, because they potentially haven't done that reflective work, and need some scaffolding to think about that. So I love those ideas, Yvonne. We have about 30 more seconds and then people will be back with us. So if anyone has any final thoughts.
I was just going to thank Yvonne for sharing, because it is a great activity to do with students, and I can carry that over next week with students that are struggling, and then be able to have them kind of think about who they can reach out to for assistance academically and emotionally.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for engaging in those great conversations. It's always great to be able to build on our understandings and learn from others. So I appreciate you sharing in your breakout rooms. The last thing that we're going to think about, the last habit we're going to think about today, is how we can help ourselves tell empowering stories. So Elena says this: how you interpret and make sense of events is a juncture point where emotional resilience increases or depletes. You make the choice about what story to tell. When you tell empowering stories, your optimism may expand, and optimism is a key trait of resilient people. So when we think about our emotions, there's actually a whole cycle of emotions. And when you experience a strong emotion, you have an interpretation of that emotion, and then you have an urge to act on that emotion. But there's also this pausing, there's a critical pausing point between that interpretation and urge to act before you can act. So we want to think about how we can kind of change or reframe our stories that we're telling ourselves. And we're going to do that through this activity of changing our have to's to want to's or get to's. So here's an example of what that might look like in the classroom. So rather than saying, I have to grade these essays, try, I want to see what my students learned and provide them feedback to move forward. So another example might be, man, a long time ago, I signed up for this conference on a Saturday. What was I thinking? And then reframing that story as, I get to network with awesome educators all across the state today and learn and hopefully be inspired. So I'm going to invite you to page 7 of your interactive notebook. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, you have a place where it says, I have to. And that's where you'll write the first statement that you're thinking about, a requirement. And then on the right-hand side, you'll change that into an I want to story. So just reframing that for yourself. We're going to take about 5 minutes here. Just get to as many of the boxes as you can. There's room for 3, or you can flip the paper over if you have more time. You can add more, or if you only get to a couple, that's okay too. So let's take about 5 minutes. We'll take just another 30 seconds here. So go ahead and wrap up that story you're currently reframing. And as you bring that idea to a close, I'm going to give you the prompt for our breakout rooms. So we're going to move into one more breakout room session. This one's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be about 6 minutes. So you have a couple extra minutes, but you have 2 tasks that I would like you to consider. The first one is to consider this activity about reframing our stories. So you could either share one of the stories that you reframed, or you can share about this experience and how it made you feel or how you might use it in the future. That's task one. Then once everyone has had a chance to share in your additional time, we've kind of been talking through out about student transfer in our breakout rooms, but I want to give you a chance to just capture some ideas or maybe share some ideas with your group about how you are currently helping your students cultivate their resilience, or what is a strategy that you learned today that you would like to implement with your students. So you'll see that right below page 7, reframing our stories, you have just an empty page for student transfer and to capture any of those ideas that you share as a group. So step 1, share about reframing our stories. And then step 2, if you have time, consider student transfer. And we'll be back together in about 6 minutes. All right, ladies, go for it.
Something that we've been working on, well, we just started this week, was administering ISATs, and I teach 3rd grade, and so it's the first year that they take them. And because of the world, you know, they're totally freaked out. And so part of my goal, I think I said, I have to administer ISATs to stressed young children. And I said, I want to help my students relax and not stress. So more importantly than just like their scores is just helping them to be in a mindset where they can be calm and relaxed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're living this last week and then next week. So that's kind of our world right now in 3rd grade.
Mhm.
One of the things that I chose to reframe is IEP meetings. I get to hold IEP meetings and then do all of the paperwork associated with that. But I reframe that into, I get to talk about students' growth and then develop a plan to keep them progressing. And I get to do this with the rest of the team. So.
Sorry that I left you for a minute. I had a teenager walking behind me. So one of the things I had is just, I think sometimes I feel so like I feel like I have to be like brilliant at school with my students, or even like at home or whatever, of like, I have to have this wisdom and I have to understand how to do this. And in framing it in a different way of like, I just want to be in that like a positive space with people, instead of it feeling like I have all this responsibility to know it all or to understand it all. So that was a good reframe. I don't think if I had been writing it down, I would have thought about that, of thinking of that in a different way. Because I think I get stuck sometimes when I feel like how do I do this if I don't even really know how to do it sometimes? So yeah, it's a good reframe.
Well, those are also powerful and such a good reminder of just the power in writing something down, right? Like, because we don't often take the time to think about it. Well, first of all, we don't often take the time to think about it. But when we take the time to think about it and then also write it down, it kind of forces us to really get creative and consider, you know, how we can tell a more empowering story. I love it. How about the student transfer piece? We've been kind of talking about that all along. But what are some other ideas as we think about the work that we've done today that you're thinking about transferring to your students or maybe to your colleagues?
I think something for me, every day we have a morning meeting. So my class, we meet for half hour, talk about social emotional skills, talk about how they're doing, you know, all those things. But even putting some of the reflection pieces in of like the flower activity or some of those activities, implementing those into some of those morning meetings to have that discussion with my class too, will kind of be helpful for them.
I see where I can use the flower activity, but also this reframing activity that we're doing, because I have students right now that are kind of negative about the reading program and things that they are expected to do. We have about 5 weeks left of school and we have like reading projects that are due. And if they reframe them to the positive thing that they are getting from accomplishing that, and really have to write it down and think about it, I think it'll be a more positive experience for them.
Yeah. I think the reframing is really good for students, and especially this year. I think lots of kids have gotten into just a really negative space of, I have to do stuff I don't want to do, and not like you wouldn't have that every year with students at times, but especially this year, I just think it's been tough. So I think this would be really, I could see it being really powerful for kids to think about it in a different way.
Absolutely. I think we all need the reframing activity this year.
For sure.
I was thinking about the joy collage, and I can think of a lot of ways that you could use that throughout the year, but in particular, I was thinking about it as a community building activity at the beginning of the year as a way for children to share about themselves with one another. So the opportunity to create what's important to them. And then, like I imagine kind of like a backyard barbecue where kids are taking their joy collage and, I go and talk to Tiffany and I share with her, and then we break and I go talk to Tanya and I share with her, and then I go talk to Yvonne. That would just be a really cool way for people to get to know each other.
Mhm.
Also, heads up, people are going to be back any second now. Welcome back, friends. Hopefully you're capturing down those last few ideas. I know my group had so many great ideas. Probably couldn't write fast enough for all of them. It's also hard to believe that we're almost to the end of our session. So we are going to round this out by going, once again, returning back to our essential question on page 2. And so now you're in that final box that says, now I think. So considering the essential question, how do we build resilience in ourselves and our students? Would you synthesize your main takeaway in that final box? And as you bring that thought to a close, I want to leave you with one final resilience activity and just a chance to appreciate ourselves and one another. So I'm going to invite you into just a quiet space of silent appreciations, or sometimes they're called telepathic appreciations. So this will just take a minute or so, but I'm going to invite you to go ahead and close your eyes if you would like, or just to look at a designated spot that allows you to be fully present in this moment. Go ahead and take a moment to appreciate yourself and what it took for you to be here today. Now appreciate someone who made it possible for you to be here. This might be someone who sacrificed time with you or has supported you in this work. Appreciate someone who pushed your thinking today. Appreciate someone who has made you smile or laugh. Appreciate someone you now feel more connected with. and appreciate a student or a teacher who gives you purpose in your work. Now, I just want to express my deep appreciation for all of you and for you being here on a Saturday, for what you do for education every day. I'm just so grateful for your time, for your commitment, and for all you do to help transform this world. So thanks for a wonderful session. We're going to break now for lunch, but you'll want to watch our conference schedule for session 3, which begins in 1 hour at 12:45 Mountain Time, 11:45 Pacific Time if you're up north. All right, bye everyone. Take care. You're welcome. What a pleasure to be with all of you today. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day.